Good evening. This is Thomas Robert Simpson with the AfroSolo Theater Company. Welcome to AfroSolo TV, another issue or addition to our AfroSolo TV, where we showcase the leading African American as well as artists of African descent giving in-depth interviews about what's happening with the art scene here in San Francisco. I'm very happy to be here today. It's been a wonderful day, and we're going to have a wonderful time together this evening. I have with me a very special guest, a very special person who is originally from San Francisco, and as we all know, a lot of San Franciscans have left, so having her here is a real treat, and having her here as a friend is a real treat, as well as an artist, as well as someone who's really important in the art scene here in San Francisco. So without further ado, let me please introduce to you to Miss Sherri Young. How are you doing, Sherri?
Oh, fine, thank you. Oh, I love how you said how I'm important.
Well, you definitely are important. So this is AfroSolo TV, and
Yeah.
I'm very happy to have you here. And as I said, what we do is we just have a nice little conversation with the leading artist in the San Francisco Bay Area. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, Sherri. You're a theater artist. How did you get involved, or where did your interest come from in being involved with the theater?
Well, I must have been about 12 years old, and I went to a drama school that my parents paid for. And from there, I did theater in high school, college, and went to American Conservatory of Theater, graduated with an MFA. And that is my start and first love of theater.
That's wonderful, and I'm so glad that your mother took you to those classes,
Yes.
because here you are today. Now, you have your own company. We want to talk a little bit about that. How did you get this impetus to start your own company?
I started at the African American Shakespeare Company because back in the day, in the early 90s, there were a lot of movies like Boys in the Hood, New Jack City. They were showing black people in just one particular light, of always a gangster, type of lifestyle. And I remember that that's not the only description of who we are and what we represent. And I was at the California Shakespeare Festival performance watching King Lear, of course the only chocolate chip in the bunch of audience members. And something major happened where the king fell down and no one reacted. And I just sort of thought in my head, if that was my family and the king fell down, there would have been someone talking about it, some other people saying, oh, can I help you? Some kind of reaction. I said, that's why black people don't go to these classics. It's not real for us. It doesn't ring true to who we are. And then that's why I said, you know what? I would like to do shows not about being black, but just about being a person living and surviving, and the classics were the perfect venue for us to do it.
Was it during your time at ACT that you thought about the African American Shakespeare Company, or what did ACT have to do with it?
I was, when you go to a training school like ACT, you're doing a lot of the classics. You're doing Chekhov, Ibsen, Shakespeare. And I was sitting around, and I said to one of the associate artistic directors, Benny Sato Ambush, I said, there must be a black Shakespeare Company around, because I would love to audition for them. And I said, Benny, where is one? And he said, Sherri, there isn't one. I said, what? Are you kidding? And he said, if you're so upset about that, why don't you start your own theater company?
Wow, Benny. Now, when you think about theater and think about your work, who are some of the people that you respect, some of the people that are your idols, or people that kind of laid sort of the groundwork for you and what you do?
When you think about theater, you don't think about the actual producers and directors that streamline those images. When I was growing up, Diane Carroll, Cecily Tyson were the only images that I saw. But as I got older, I realized there's August Wilson, Lloyd Richards, all these great dynamic producers, directors, George C. Wolfe, that are powerful and dynamic and sort of help propel me to start African American Shakespeare, because they've done some wonderful things that's incredible as writers, directors, producers. And it really is, I'm stepping on their shoulders to get to where I am.
Great. Do you remember the first time you were in front of an audience as a theater person?
Oh, Let me see. Do I remember? I can't say that I do. I remember I've been in a lot of shows, and I started off doing a lot of dancing. And I remember the first audience that I had this green little tutu around, and I was performing at Laguna Honda for the seniors, and I just remember my mom putting a lot of lipstick on my face. I was trying to fight her off. So I remember those things, and I just remember being so proud. And I remember things after that, but that was my first real performance that I truly remember as a child.
In thinking about the company that you started, the African American Shakespeare Company, what have been some of the joys in starting and seeing that company grow? Because this is what anniversary for you?
We're finishing up the 13th. We're heading into our 14th, starting in September.
That's unbelievable. I think I remember when you had your shows over at New Conservatory and you were doing scene work. You remember that?
I've known you for a very long time.
So 14 years, that's great.
Yes.
When we think about people of color doing the classics, what's been the reaction that you've received from audience members who's come to see the shows?
Well, it's funny because when we first started off, one of the best things that we had was a full page spread in the Oakland Tribune, full color. They were very excited that a company like this was starting. But at the same time, I had a phone call for this gentleman who was insulted that black people would even do the classics.
Really?
Oh, yes, yes. And I think there's a misperception. America has so much anger, hurt, that it's just sometimes we can't seem to enjoy things that don't belong to us. Or we think that appreciating Shakespeare is taking away from being black and who we are. Or vice versa, you know, if you're talking hip hop and you're white, you're not supposed to do that. And it's just such a dysfunctional society that we live in. But when people come see African American Shakespeare, we're not trying to tell people to be white. We're not trying to tell them to speak with British accent. We want to bring who you are, all of who you are, to our shows and incorporate that into the story. How can we use our cultural history into Shakespeare? So, for instance, we did Romeo and Juliet set in Cuba, whereas like the Cubans and the darker skinned Cubans, you know, who were against each other. And the street fight was a capoeira street fight. And there was like, you know, so we try to find ways to incorporate who we are into these stories that speaks universally to us.
Now you have a performance that's coming up pretty soon.
Yes.
What show is that?
The Comedy of Errors.
Can you tell us a little bit about Comedies of Errors for people who may not be familiar with it?
Yes. The Comedy of Errors is like an old-fashioned Three Stooges play, except for there's four. There's two sets of twins, Antipholus and Dromio, and then their identical twins are named the same, Antipholus and Dromio. So they're separated at birth, and one set arrives on an island of a seaport. They run into the friends and family of their identical twins without knowing that they were separated. So a wife mistakes her husband for someone else, and the men are confused, like, what do you mean I owe you money? What do you mean? What are you doing all over me, woman? Get off of me. So it's very slapstick comedy, and it's hilarious. Just fun.
Just taking that show, how are you going to use the people of color experience? What are you going to do to that? Give us just a little taste.
Just a little taste.
Yes.
Well, I can tell you that they're updating it to the World Fair. And I can tell you that one of the concepts the director is using is that the woman doesn't realize that it's not her real husband, because, you know, you're supposed to know your real husband. When you kiss them, when you hold them, the way they touch, you're supposed to know. And she misses it because she has so many kids and she's overwhelmed. So one of the elements is that she has that black family life of just, you know, energy all around and getting things done. And being a black woman, you know, you just move. You're not sitting down and, oh, honey, you know. So she's incorporating one of those elements into the show.